first half awards, Cole. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do. I say we just kind of go back and forth. We fire them off. We'll start with you go first, and then we'll just switch off from there.
So I am giving my MVP. This is gonna shock people. I don't know if they're ready for this, but I think the MVP of the first half of 2023 is Ronald Acuna Jr.
Whoa.
I know that's a hot take.
You don't say.
I had to really debate between, Ronald Acuna Jr. and so I landed on Ronald Acuna Jr. and,
well,
really bold take by me.
I mean, you know what? I advertised this show and I said, hey, we do drop the occasional spicy take, and that might be the spiciest take we've ever.
I don't think we're gonna have a spicier take.
That's got a Scoville rating of like at least 9,000. Mine. So I was trying to do. I didn't want it to be, like too predictable or anything. I wanted to have awards that weren't too. What's the word? Just like
cliche.
What's up?
Cliche.
Yeah, not too cliche, but I didn't want to go like, here's my J.R. Token award or whatever they're doing on Talking Baseball nowadays. So I'm going to start with the most surprising. And now when I say most surprising, this can be good or bad. I combine the two. But when your team has 60 wins and is on pace for 111 going into the All-Star break, it would be pretty foolish to have a disappointing player in there. So the most surprising to me was basically a mix of, not a mix, but it was between three players. We have Orlando Arcia. I mean, did make the All-Star team. I mean, people were mad when he was announced as the starting shortstop for the Braves. Everybody wanted Vaughn Grissom, and look at what he's done for this team. And then from there, we had Bryce Elder, who, again, if you go back to one of our preseason episodes when we talked about the potential fifth starter, we put it between Michael Soroka, Ian Anderson, and Bryce Elder. I think we talked about Bryce Elder for maybe 2 minutes. And then the last one was Sean Murphy, who, when we traded for him, we were expecting, great defense and a good bat. We didn't expect him to be Johnny Bench. We didn't expect him to have nearly a 1.0 OPS going into the All-Star break. Just his game has been taken. So, again, we're expecting good. We got elite, and that's what made his first half so surprising. But I'm going to go with Bryce Elder. With Sean Murphy, you could see his Savant page for the previous years and convince yourself that you could have seen this coming. I mean, there's a couple people out there who are like, he could put up a 999 OPS in the first half. And then Arcia, like I said, he struggled a little bit, and it does seem like he's coming back to earth where, again, we're paying him $3 million this year. But for Bryce Elder, until today, he came into today's game as the NL ERA leader. Last year, he did have the only complete game for a Brave. Granted, it was against the Nationals. He was just the guy that we basically threw in against bottom five offenses. We just said, hey, go at him. But he's done it against good teams this year. He had that performance against the Phillies, where it was like 7 innings, 1 earned run against a really tough offense. Against the Dodgers, against all these good. I can't think of. I don't know if he pitched against the Rangers, but he's
pulled through. He continues to defy the odds.
That's another thing too. It's like when you look under the hood, there's nothing that really stands out to you, which I think puts him over the edge of being the most surprising player in my opinion. So, all right,
I'll just do the most surprising, most disappointing as well.
Cool.
So quickly, just most disappointing. Sorry, Dylan Dodd. I don't think you're quite ready this year. I don't expect you to have any more starts this year.
Yeah.
If the rotation is healthy. But yeah, I also had a most surprising on my list. Kind of the same thought process, except I only think about hitters, except for Spencer Strider. So this is to be expected. One honorable mention is Marcell Ozuna, because
I didn't,
personal issues aside, I thought he was toast.
Yeah.
I really thought he was toast. In late April, I thought he was toast. And now, you can't really take him out of the lineup. And he's become a mentor in the clubhouse in terms of just like baseball things. I don't know if I trust him for non-baseball things, but at least in the baseball realm, he sat down Michael Harris and he was like, "Hey, you got to remember that you're like the best center fielder in baseball." And Michael Harris went, "Oh yeah, I am." And he went from having like a 40 WRC plus to a 95 WRC plus in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And this was in June. It's not like early April. And then Matt Olson was like, "Oh yeah, I was having a hard time a couple of weeks ago," and Ozuna was just like, "Hey, you got to do this," and he went, "Oh, you know what? I think I can." And that's when he hit all of the home runs against the Reds and the Twins and whatnot. So shout out to him. Shout out to Arcia. But it has to be Murphy for me because I couldn't wrap my little brain around the fact that we would trade our only tradable asset, William Contreras. I do miss some Billy Bombs. And to trade him along with all of those prospects in a very depleted farm system for a position that we didn't really need.
Mm-hmm.
Travis d'Arnaud is, I have an award for him down at the very end. Travis d'Arnaud is a very good player. William Contreras is a very good player, and the Braves at the time looked like they needed a DH and a left fielder. But I am not Alex Anthopoulos. I don't have that brain to realize that Sean Murphy is going to pick up some MVP votes this year. The thing I love about Murphy, though, is that he just swings as hard as he can, and he hits the ball very hard, and it goes over the fence.
He takes daddy hacks. I mean, it sounds different coming off of his bat, which I was not expecting that kind of player. Not that I was expecting him to be like a light hitting catcher, but I mean, his career high in homers coming this year.
4 WAR
like
at the
18.
All-Star break is not something I had in the cards.
All right. My next one is most overlooked, and just the background for this award was, I mean, baseball is a very regional sport. A lot of people just really pay attention to their own team, and that's it. A lot of people get their information on other teams when their team is playing them. So this whole award is just, if you're an outsider and you're looking at the Braves, who as we as Braves fans would say, this is like the guy that you don't think about him. He's not going to be on, the top of the post or anything. He's not going to be, a headliner, but he's really been one of our biggest keys this year. And the reason I chose Charlie Morton for this award was that not only do I think he gets overlooked often by the casual baseball fan, even in his prime, but the average Braves fan underrates Charlie Morton. I still see people on Twitter and TikTok who are like, it's Charlie Morton bump day, like automatic loss. He's I would say he's been our second best pitcher. Well, okay, tied for our second best pitcher. I would say he and Spencer Strider pretty much kind of, the raw results have been the same. They do it in different ways. And something I want to note too is that, and I have it here in the notes, I have 3 pitching lines this year. You'll see the first one has an ERA plus a 116. The second one has an ERA plus a 103. And the third has an ERA plus of 130. The first 2 of those lines with the ERA plus of 116 and 103 are making a combined $83 million this year. While the third one is Charlie Morton, who is roughly the same age as them. And obviously I'm talking about Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer of the New York Mets. They're roughly the same age. And a lot of people have been pointing out how age has caught up to Scherzer and Verlander. I think the jury's still out. I think to say that they're washed is kind of silly. Let's talk when it's the end of the year. But Morton age has not affected him at all. He is still, I would say, in his old man prime. So I just thought that was...
realize how much better Charlie Morton has been this year than Verlander and Scherzer.
And he's doing it for half the price. So
yeah, I think some casual Braves fans, this is your award, but I'm gonna butt in and add some commentary.
Do it.
Some casual Braves fans, they absolutely cannot wrap their minds around why Alex Anthopoulos would pay Charlie Morton $20 million a year, as if the starting free agent market is much cheaper, and also that even without the results, Charlie Morton is someone you want in your clubhouse. He's
Yeah.
the perfect mentor for starting pitchers, young starting pitchers. Not only because he is a very good starting pitcher, but he has probably had the most struggles of any eventually successful starting pitcher ever. Charlie Morton had 7 bad years. Charlie Morton was a bad pitcher for 7 years. And I think that kind of experience to have in the clubhouse where, let's say Spencer Strider has another bad start, you know? Charlie Morton's like, hey, dude, I had like 100 of those.
Yeah.
No one wanted me. I signed a cheap deal in Philadelphia, and then Houston was like, "Oh, I think we have something." And Charlie Morton knows how to make adjustments. Like, he didn't just keep doing the same thing for 7 years. Once he got to Philadelphia and then Houston, he made some of the biggest adjustments as a pitcher that you can ever make as a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, even without the success, I want Charlie Morton in the clubhouse.
Yeah. Whenever, I mean, especially, whenever you're watching a Braves game and you see one of the younger guys pitch, whether it be Elder, AJ Smith, Chavez, after they're done, the first person you see them go to is Charlie. I mean, he is either him or Cranny. He's basically like having another coach on the team, and I think you're completely right.
Basically, I see it. The Braves are paying him like $15 million to be a pitcher, and he's doing well above $15 million of work as a pitcher. And then they're paying him like $5 million as a coach, and he's doing $5 million worth of work as a coach. So with the best pitcher for the Braves, it really is tough to go FIP versus ERA performances. Just because I prefer FIP, but you can't underestimate the value of already in the bank runs allowed. So this was a hard one because I think Bryce Elder deserves a lot of credit. This start aside, but like Cole was saying, he was doing great work against good teams this year. But I think at the end of the day, if you take those 13 earned runs away from Spencer Strider, he's been I don't want to say the most, but I think one of the most dominant starters in the major leagues this season, maybe even within the past couple of seasons. He just broke the Braves record for most strikeouts before the All-Star break. He's on pace to break the most home or strikeouts per 9 innings. Before the season, Cole and I predicted over under 270 strikeouts. He is well on the over. I just can't fathom it, and so Strider gets our Cy Young award.
I have nothing to add. I mean, he strikes out a lot of
Well,
guys.
I mean, I think your next award goes well with this.
Oh, yeah, it really does. So, best single game performance. This could be for a hitter or a pitcher, and I didn't even have to think about it. To continue off of Mitchell's point, Spencer Strider on April 24th against the Miami Marlins took a perfect game into the 6th inning. He took into 3 pitch strikeouts he got in that game. I know it was at least like 4.
I think it was like 8.
Something
it was absurdly
silly.
high because he had a low pitch count going into the 8th.
Yeah. Game score of 91. What would you say is like 80 is like a dominant start. And the greatest game score of all time is like low 100s, like 104, 105. So amazing game. Yeah, I was against the Marlins. Yeah, Luis Ariz wasn't in the lineup that day, but I mean, if you were watching Spencer Strider in the ballpark, which I was, you would know that he had everything
almost
working
did make
night.
That game.
I actually only went to that game to get this poster, and I'm very glad. Yeah.
Now we're gonna go off the wall grid and just kind of do some silly awards. Most likely to break your heart, Orlando Arcia. It's just something about the way he wears that hat under his ears. There's just something else. And then Cole has the best moment of the year.
Best moment again. I mean, it literally it made you put on a tinfoil hat because of how perfectly set up this moment was. June 8th, Ozzie Albies walk-off homer against the Mets. It was the Braves Legacy broadcast night with Chipper Jones, Jeff Francoeur, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine in the booth. Poor Larry Crown. One of the best calls of all time. Crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
Larry
like I said,
Crown.
you were convinced that they brought out the juice balls for, again, what was effectively just still a regional broadcast. It's not like they were pulling in national viewership with that one.
Yeah, I think in terms of Braves broadcasting calls in my lifetime history, it's poor Larry Crown at number 1, and then
he attacks and smokes one to deep left. This
ball
one's
is
going
supersonic.
That is out of the ballpark. Whoa!
By Ben Ingram on the Jorge Soler call. So yeah, best moment by far this season. Most likely to chill and get coffee with you. I want to have coffee with Jesse Chavez. Jesse, if you watch this, Cole and I would love some tickets to Braves games. We'd love to sit down, get some coffee with you because not many people pull off hats. Michael Harris does. Jesse Chavez definitely does. I think sitting and having coffee with him.
And Jesse, just to sweeten the pot, I am within walking distance of Truist, and I do have a coffee shop in my complex. So, I mean, it works out perfect. We can grab a coffee.
Please get coffee with us, Jesse Chavez.
Yeah, tell us about that one time you vacationed in Los Angeles during the season a few years ago. Love to catch up.
Tell us what it's like to get traded by almost every team in baseball.
What was your favorite city to play in? Hopefully the leg's feeling better. I know he was walking with a cane. Reports last week was he was still rocking with a cane.
Yeah.
I bet he was walking with like the doing the biggest pimp walk
in the world.
Yeah, like he probably had like the best pimp walk going for him. I mean, that cane probably like rivals something you'd see in like a Martin Scorsese film. That I bet he looked with his hat, with his like he probably has like a ploof hat now with the cane, probably walking a suit. Dude, he can make anything look cool. I love Jesse Chavez. That's a good award.
And we gotta get that coffee. Reliever
my
award.
last one is reliever I trust the most. This isn't necessarily best reliever. It's just who this year has come in the game and my nerves are calmed. I feel at ease. I feel zen when they're pitching. And Araceli Iglesias has given me a lot of anxiety. Kirby Yates. Don't even get me started on Kirby Yates. Nick Anderson, I know the numbers don't pop out at you, but it seems like whenever he has a blow-up start, there is a cushion there. I think he does amp his stuff up. He's been severely injured before. I mean, he pretty much missed all of last year and 2021 too. And he was an elite reliever for the Rays and Marlins before that. And he's just one of those guys. Like I trust him. I mean, if we're going on a wild excursion, down the outer banks of Alaska, he's the guy I'd want to be leading the charge. So Nick Anderson, I trust you the most. Not necessarily the best reliever on the team, but definitely the guy that whenever you're on the mound, I'm like, okay, we're in a good spot here. I feel calm.
All right, and then for my last award, Team Player Award. It is the award that you give a guy who's just like, he's on the team, he plays well, but like his biggest contribution is just he is on your team. We've talked about a few guys already, Chavez, Morton, but I think there's no better team player than an all-star in 2022 who gets a phone call from his GM and says, hey, we're making you a bench player. We love your stuff. We signed you to an extension before we're making this trade, but effectively you're a bench player, and I hope you're okay with that. And Travis d'Arnaud, I don't know how many people have that little of an ego to go, you know what? Cool. I was one of the best catchers in baseball last year, and now I'm playing every third game, and I'm okay with that. Travis d'Arnaud hits tanks. He is a great guy to have on your team. He basically played every game when Murphy had that hamstring injury last month. But in general, he's only playing once every third game. He can't DH anymore because Marcell Ozuna's too good.
Yeah, it's also important to note, too, that he was the first one to call Sean Murphy when the trade was made. He was the first one to give him the welcome call. So, it's funny. That's actually kind of a hard award just for this team. I mean, there's so many guys. I mean, you make a great case for Travis. I think Ozzy, I would say de facto
team
team leader
leader.
at this point.
Yeah.
I know a couple years ago, like 2021, he sort of tried to start getting this hard edge. There was that play in Texas where he was like yelling at Ozuna on the base paths.
I mean,
I think
Ozuna
he
deserved
realized
that.
that's what's up.
Oh, I think Ozuna deserved.
He
that
did.
specific
But I think
thing.
Ozzy realized that's not the kind of guy he is. I mean, he is definitely a goofball. And you can still lead by example. You don't have to tell people like you have to do this, you have to do that. Dansby, Freddie. And I think he really sets the tone for that clubhouse. He's the guy that, if you're, especially the trade deadline, we might need to see some new faces. He's going to be the first guy that welcomes you in that clubhouse.
Yeah.
And he is the glue that holds this team together.
Yeah.
But Travis, I think Travis,
yeah,
I think
it's a
Travis
hard
is,
award.
Yeah, good.
For
good
sure.
in that spot too.
But like with Travis d'Arnaud, it's a lot easier to be an all-star and keep your, like, Travis d'Arnaud did nothing wrong after the all-star break either. Like, he was a great player after the all-star break. And you just don't have that many players in the league who is willing to take effectively a bench role for the betterment of the team. And, he does great preparation. I think the Braves catching tandem has always done excellent pitching preparation.
Sal Fasano and Rick Kranitz. I mean, they have a kind of low-key, I would say Yadier Molina type preparation.
Yeah.
I mean, that
I'm going to make a bold
pitching staff
prediction
success.
here.
Mhm.
I know we're going to make predictions at the end, but I think when Brian Snitker retires, number 16 will be the next manager of the Braves. I think he says he wants to be a manager. The Braves love this guy.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
I think he'll be the next manager.